Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to our weekly review series on WandaVision. We are here at episode 6 today, all new Halloween spectacular, exclamation mark. And we have a lot to talk about. Again, every week, like this show is going places. We have questions, we have speculation, and it's always in like the last 5 or 10 minutes of the episode. So because of that, obviously, this is going to be very, very spoiler focused. This is going to be an open discussion, but we pretty much comb through every single thing in the episode, theories, everything along the way. And obviously, we encourage you to comment along as well if you've seen the episode. If you haven't seen the episode, just click off right now. This is your order. Go click off, go watch it and come back. It's like 30 minutes. But yeah, lots more to discuss. And fair play to this show. Week to week, every single time, I always think it's going to drop off the wagon at some point, and it really hasn't. It's keeping me intrigued, and now we are 3 episodes away as of this episode from the finale, and I think they're going to pull something big out the bag. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we'll go quickly over the socials, and then we'll dive straight into the episode.
Absolutely, guys. So as we always say, this is spoiler focused, and we have our theories, we have our speculation, failed predictions, correct predictions, and we want to know yours. So comment along with this tonight. Give us your thoughts on the episode. We've got individual set pieces we're going to talk about, but we want you guys to do the same. And of course, to help us with that, do like as well and do subscribe. We had a lot of people tuning yesterday, which we're really pleased with. Today's our 1001st video, and yesterday was our 1000th. So go check that if you haven't already. There's a couple of major announcements in there, some of which are Marvel orientated, which I don't mind saying, which we'll talk about at the ending. But if you like MCU, you're on this video, and we'll get to that later on. But do comment along, and when you want to find out when we've got videos, because we've got a lot of things coming up right now. Me and Chris have been very notepad-wise for lots of things, lots of dates, things to cross off. So that's as skeptical as I can be. If you want to find out about those videos that we can't talk about, then find us on Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy. And as announced yesterday, we have returned to Letterboxd. Get us on letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. We've got a link down below. We'll follow anyone back that follows us on there. We've uploaded a load of lists, including today, video from November, films we want to see turn into games. We've uploaded that. So have a check if you do enjoy Letterboxd, because it's got really big now. But we're not here for Letterboxd. We are here for WandaVision. And we already have James in the comments. Come for the episode, stay for the theories. This is what we say. I mean, this is technically a spoiler review. But let's be honest, these are discussions. It's the Charlie Day Red Wire thing. It's not just us, it's the people in the show. They're doing it with us. So comment your theories, James. Let us know what you think. We'll go over some of ours, because I think I know. I've got a theory. I've been speaking to a couple of people today, so I'm going to shoot that later on. However, as we always do with WandaVision, we're going to go into the intro, the setting, the era, and to my surprise, maybe the biggest surprise of it, we've skipped the 90s. And we are straight to the noughties.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to say James is a buddy of mine. He has been on the channel before, way back when. I think he was on one of the DC videos. And I know that he has been going through, he's cleaning up some of the Marvel films that he hasn't seen yet. I think he's got 1 or 2 to go, and he's been loving this show as well. So yeah, the 90s, I was very surprised they skipped that decade. I guess you could say that this one today is sort of the end of the 90s, just going into the 2000s, sort of on the cusp. But yeah, I thought they'd dwell more on the 80s. I thought this episode from the trailer was going to be set in the 80s. I didn't realize we were going to jump so far ahead. I thought we were going to get a 90s episode, and then we were going to be firmly into the 2000s. But no, we're just breezing through this. We're catching up to modern day. But I liked the setting. It was definitely a necessary setting. And if you think of sitcoms, it's one, we're probably getting into the age now where they're more of the sitcoms that we used to watch, right? You know, and rushing home from school, getting home and having a lot of TV shows similar to this. Like every week they always do like an intro that matches the decade that it came out, and it was a very zany one. It did kind of take me back. It was, yeah, I used to watch terrible stuff like this. Even the advert, which we'll get to later. Now, I didn't catch the reference to this one. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit in the episode. The Yo Magic one, I'm like, that there's probably some meaning in there about trying to get something open. It's like this starving kid on an island, and he's trying to get into like this horrible E-numbers product, which it's a miracle that I'm still alive today. The diet that we were on as 90s kids, Jesus Christ, we just eat anything that we saw on an advert. So yeah, good setting though. It worked a lot for me, and it was quite nostalgic to me as well in a weird kind of warped way, because there's a lot of really awkward moments again as we get in WandaVision, and the creepy moments and the character breaking moments in this one, probably more so than ever in this one.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big thing of this. The not even actually getting out of it, the era. So I kept saying that, I will know there's 90s sitcoms when they play them. It'll probably be Friends, it could be Seinfeld. You mentioned it could be Fresh Prince, and I think certainly for maybe our age demographic, we probably know the 90s sitcoms best after the noughties, maybe, and how we are. But I've never watched Malcolm in the Middle. I only know of it really through Bryan Cranston, the old man meme. I think everyone knows that one. Is it the future is ours, old man? I can't remember. But for a couple of seconds, I thought, oh my god, we've got an Even Stevens intro, and it wasn't. Had it have been claymation, maybe. But I thought that was the ultimate meta. Early noughties, Disney owned Even Stevens running around the house. A part of me was like, oh my god, and it didn't happen. But yeah, I think the big thing was that 2000s, and even jumping ahead, I think one of the most interesting parts has been the cinema. If everyone's paid attention to the cinema, and you saw the classic X-Men film Apocalypse, they famously said they come out of the Return of the Jedi saying that the third one's always the worst. One of the worst references of mankind, because Return of the Jedi is one of their best trilogy endings in history, and X-Men Apocalypse is one of the worst trilogy endings in history. And this one, they came out of Parent Trap and The Incredibles, and I was like, oh my god, is this 2004? And I thought, oh no, Parent Trap's the late 90s, and someone online said, well, Parent Trap is about two twins that were split up then brought back together, and The Incredibles is obviously a family of superheroes, and family of superheroes really is the theme of Halloween. The opening scene, no messing about. Everyone's in their costume, their comic book costumes, comic book counterparts. We have Vision, Scarlet Witch, the twins, and the return of, I mean, do we call it the return of Quicksilver or Pietro? I think that's now the debate, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we got a previously on, I guess, and they actually show Quicksilver's death from Age of Ultron this time. I think that's the first time they've actually showed proper footage of that character since that film. So it firmly grounds it there, and it was nice to see the classic costumes. They gave away that in the trailer, and we pretty much guessed that based on the decades and everything that this was going to be today's episode. It was great seeing the costumes, especially one of them, I've got to say, and I'll leave it at that. But it was nice that they homaged the original designs for that, because I remember when Vision, first entered the MCU, and he kind of looked like the character. He was very much modernized, sort of that Superman look to him, I guess, in terms of the material and everything they used. And well, they didn't really bother with a costume at all, really, did they, for Scarlet Witch? They didn't even call her Scarlet Witch. That was a rights issue. And then she was just kind of in a red leather jacket, and there's your Scarlet Witch. I still think they could have modernized her costume in some way. I don't think anything's out of reach. I think they absolutely could have done something like that. But just as a fun little, Easter egg to that classic costume look, I thought it was cool. They clearly hate those designs because they ridicule them every single second they get in this episode. But I thought it was quite cool to see. Oh, we just had some more comments come in. I think, okay, so this is talking about Pietro. So let's talk about Pietro, because that was the big cliffhanger ending from the previous episode. It's great to see Evan Peters back, because I love him as that character. But I never thought about this. So Cole started this theory right here with, I'm starting to think Pietro isn't Pietro. He keeps getting the twins' names wrong. I just took that as, well, we know it's not actually him. It can't physically be him, but we don't really know his place yet. That opened up the multiverse. They haven't gone into that yet, so clearly they're setting that up. And James has put, yeah, the Pietro identity thing is really twisty. Cannot decide whether he's Pietro, if he's someone more Mephisto-y. And there's that name again.
He's like the it's like, the Voldemort, like, he shall not be named, or everyone. Mephisto is going to be let's go, if they unveil him, it's going to be like, oh, it was him all along. And then it's also down to the fact that, well, yes, because we will figure it out. The Pietro was amazing, because I've seen both of those, actually, what Carl and what James have put online. The discussion has been incredible, because we know he's out of character, because obviously, I know we're jumping ahead. He's like, so how did you get the kids? How did you get the kids? Because everyone last week was saying, there's a vision, where are the kids? And he's like, so how did you get the kids going? What happened? And he had these moments where it felt like the X-Men Quicksilver. And he was trying to inject that personality. And I forgot how much I did like him, actually. A lot of people rewatched Apocalypse. No, definitely not. Days of Future Past over the last week. I've seen a lot of people tweeting about it, even saying I'm at minute 43. And my theory is again, a really boring, obvious one. whether it's Mephisto, I think it is controlling and creating what's going on right now in the multiverse, the smaller scale multiverse, I think we'll call it, because we do know that Wanda's going to turn into something else. I'm convinced that whoever is Mephisto, is it Agnes the neighbor? Is it someone we haven't met yet? Is it something different? They have gone to get Pietro and realize he's dead. We physically cannot bring back the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And what's Mephisto done? He's gone into another universe that has a Quicksilver that's alive in it. We now know that one of my favorite scenes, actually, we'll get to it later on, the disturbing, creepy people lagged on 3 frames at a time doing the washing line stuff. Amazing. But I think he's kind of under a spell, that he's got the memories of Aaron Taylor Johnson, not his X-Men memories, and that's going to unravel, because we got those moments when she sort of threw him across the square. But the Pietro stuff's amazing because, he's come into it, but he's actually got quite a big role, and I think he's going to be sticking around to the final episode. He was in the opening video, which I loved. Again, going back to that sitcom, the opening credits was amazing. I love the little things like that. Again, that's my era, the naughtiest ones. But the Pietro stuff's going to be, I think, the really big thing. I think we're going to get a massive revelation with him, because we did have a massive Vision revelation, which we'll speak about later on. A couple of big things which are going to come into play in the next few weeks. But this is what I was thinking. Maybe this is a side point. I'm sorry if it's detracting from the end of the video, but the multiverse is fascinating because we keep expecting or thinking it's going to open, we're going to see it. But the reality is that we're going to see it in Spider-Man as well, and in Doctor Strange. Now, whether Doctor Strange is going to close that multiverse and things happen, but we're at the entry point now, and whatever we're going to find out over the next 3 weeks, it's going to be new to us as viewers. It's going to be new to, I guess, the in-world canon as well. And there's going to be so many things happening that I don't think we're going to get all the answers, because at the end of the day, this was originally going to air just before Doctor Strange 2. And obviously, this is going to finish airing almost a year before Doctor Strange 2, which is actually amazing, because you're going to get that wait that keeps going, and we're also going to get Tobey Maguire come back as Spider-Man, which is more important. But it's really fascinating, the Pietro thing. I think that's a really fun way of doing the multiverse, by bringing in someone established that's not too big a name, that you can have fun with. And, there's Aaron Taylor Johnson moments when he's saying that, why was this guy getting shot in the street for no reason? It was kind of not taking the piss out of Age of Ultron, but it's kind of like, well, I think of like the few X-Men that have legitimately died. And it's like, not X-Men, sorry, Avengers. And it's like, no one just got shot by like normal machine gun fire in a street. Granted, he did save all kind of stuff, but I like those little comments. You could tell Wanda doesn't really know what's happening. They've got different memories, but similar memories. And I think all of this, if it is Mephisto, is part of the plan. And I think it's going to unravel and go crazy.
Yeah, and we've got a lot to unpack in the comments as well, kind of on that line of Mephisto there as well. So let's go through some of these. We've got Carl, who said this is regarding Quicksilver's character. He did tell the twins to raise hell. Could that just be a line in the script? Is that intentional? We don't know. We have some people disagreeing whether it should be or is going to be Mephisto. Life of Brian says, Mephisto, I can't see it. He's a character that needs a build. Otherwise, at the end, a lot of people won't know him at all. I kind of agree with that. And I think if this serves as a build-up, which is what James has mentioned, he says perhaps they're laying some groundwork here, but bringing him in Doctor Strange, maybe. That could be the case, although I do think they have set up a villain for Doctor Strange 2 based on the ending of the first Doctor Strange, unless it's going to be a 2-villain thing. That's always a possibility there. You had Dormammu in the first one, who was this huge cosmic godlike being. You could have the same with this one as well. You could have like that Satan-like character. And you mentioned Tobey Maguire there as well, from Lennon Paul, who says, WandaVision will be perfect if it has Tobey Maguire in it delivering a pizza. I would love to see that. We would all love to see that. We all want to see Tobey Maguire back in some way, shape, or form. Let's hopefully save him for the big dramatic reveal in Spider-Man 3, though, and see if he comes in that. We've got a few more things. We'll just go through these and obviously keep commenting along as well, guys, because this is all an open discussion between us all, and the theories are always the most enjoyable bit of this series, in my opinion. Did you see in the opening stuff when they saw Agnes, they ran and they looked scared in the camera? Yeah. I missed that. So no, I didn't see that, but I will say Agnes's moment, there's so many great moments in this episode because I love the Vision stuff as well, but the moment where Vision speaks with Agnes, that's probably the standout bit for me in this episode. Yeah.
The Agnes thing was interesting because I may be wrong. Is it the first? She might have been in the credits maybe for one of the first 2 episodes, but she had an outright credits. And I was like, neighbor in the opening credits. That's that's a bit more important for the sitcom. Yes, and I think I can't remember if it says Agnes. Sorry, I saw it this morning, but obviously she's not in the family photo at the end. But I was like, oh, I didn't expect Agnes to get dropped in that main credit sequence. And maybe again, I'm going back to Even Stevens too much, but it's really interesting. Again, it's the Agnes theories, and you mentioned that scene later on. We'll get to that because that's one of the standout scenes, and people looking into her costume as well. The fact that she's a witch, dressed up as a witch, and all this kind of stuff going on. But these comments are amazing, guys. Keep them coming. Carl Roberts, even his head, like devil horns. A lot of multiverse stuff going on. We all know Doctor Strange 2 will be Doctor Strange 2. Dharma Homies back to bargain. Life of Bryant, Mephisto, I can't see it. He needs to build, otherwise people won't know him at all. And James follows up a great point. Maybe they're laying the groundwork here to bring him into Doctor Strange. Because we do know that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be in Doctor Strange. And the one thing we can expect with Marvel is that if a storyline can stay open, they will eventually complete it. And I think that's a Marvel guarantee. I don't think Mephisto is going to be a 10-year plan villain. Maybe he is, and I'm naive. But it's really interesting to see where it's going to go. Because we've got 3 more weeks, which is insane. It goes so quick. And, you know, I'm not to get into that discussion again, the whole dropping all at once versus week by week. But as I said, after episode 3, week by week on this it's cliffhangers of a different kind, and we'll get to this week's right at the end again. But I don't think I've seen a show drop this many great cliffhangers week by week in a long time. Granted, I actually wait for most of my shows to be streaming altogether, but even Game of Thrones, you'd get the odd sort of cliffhanger, maybe 2 episodes, but I want to say we've had about 4 back to back now. And it just makes you want more. You want to know what's going on, and it's been wonderful. And you know what? We haven't even actually got to the core of the episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think as of this episode now, maybe last week's as well, I was still sort of umming and ahhing whether I thought that it should have been released, all the episodes should have been released in one go, so you could binge watch it like a Netflix show, or if it does benefit from the week to week. And after seeing how they've been maintaining that intrigue and the theories, I think it definitely is suited to a week to week. It is bringing me back, so it's done something right. It's not like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I know that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has its fans, but that had a concept, that had an answer I wanted. Well, a question I wanted answering by the end of the series, which I thought would keep me hooked. And after 5 episodes in, I just quickly dropped off that, to be honest. I did hear it picked up, you know, it tied in with the films and everything with Hydra, but that's a lot of view time and I haven't got time for that. But this is doing something right, and this is keeping me intrigued, certainly at the end of this episode as well. And Life of Brian, Dave says, how much does the lead sword guy know? This is it. We still have a lot of questions, and I really hope they answer them as well, because I don't see just based on the plot alone, I don't see WandaVision being a series where you'll get WandaVision season 2 or season 3. At least I hope not. I don't want them to keep her in this world for all that long as a sort of middle chapter, I guess, which will lead into the feature films. That's absolutely fine, but I don't want them to sort of double down on all the series, because I think that'll outstay its welcome. But yeah, like so much. I think we should. Oh, hang on, George. This is how. Yes, exactly. This is how me and Chris felt week to week with Lost. Yeah, I still think Lost is chief among them, the most intrigue week to week. It's unfortunate how that kind of turned out in season 6. But by God, it kept us hooked for 6 years, didn't it? But there's still a lot to unpack. I think we should get into Vision, though, because this is where I mentioned this last week as well. The whole set 2 with Wanda and Vision, where he's becoming more and more self-aware. He knows that he's in a place where he doesn't belong. And, you know, the next door neighbor, Agnes, tells him in this episode, says, "You're dead." And, you know, that messes with his mind. And he finally gets out of the hex. Now, I didn't know what was going to happen when he got out of the hex. I thought once he sort of like pulls his way out, was it just going to be a grayed out corpse on the floor with the hole in his head, and he was just going to flop out and, you know, he's dead. But he still exists outside of the hex, which is interesting. So I don't know if that's still kind of, I mean, he's tearing apart, and the camera focuses on the bits flying off him as well, which maybe it's nothing, but I've heard some theories related to that as well.
I've got a theory. Before I get to that, I want to talk about those scenes, because when Wanda clicked that, Vision's not a neighborhood watch duty, and it's like Vision playing detective, going to the edge of the estate was amazing, because they were like the extras, quite literally, that you're going to be the extras in my TV show, Wanda. Stay there and do the same 3 things over and over again for 8 hours. And it's when they cut to the woman and you just see the tear going down her eye.
That was like Get
this
Out.
is dark, and it's because it's the Halloween episode as well. It didn't ever feel like horror, but that needed to be an eerie moment in an eerie episode with a dark theme. And when you see that car parked to the edge of the estate, I was like, of course he's going to go there because it's right at the edge of the estate. And the fact it was Agnes to me is giveaway number one, that she is involved. Theory number one, what I'm about to discuss, is not boring to say she's the villain, but she knows far more than what she's telling. Now, whether she's been took over by somebody else, if it is Mephisto took over Agnes while they're in there, I don't know. But what was fascinating with her is that why would she be on the edge of the estate? Why would that character, who is the neighbor in the main town, been told to go on the edge of the estate and just sit there for the night? And that's been my big thing. Like, why Agnes? There is so much more happening. And I think there's a comic book counterpart with her name that everyone discussed weeks ago. Some people think she could be Mephisto. I think the other one is an agent that turns rogue or something. But when you get those moments with her where she couldn't move, and then he unlocks her mind, and it's like, oh, you're an Avenger. Am I alive? No, but you're dead. And I was like, Vision's gonna. The clocks are whirring because, as you said before, he has no memory pre Westview.
Well, that was the big thing for me. He doesn't even remember being an Avenger, and I was like, "Oh, exactly. Why is that? That's what I want to know." Yeah,
it's like, what's an Avenger? I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, stuff's gonna kick off with Wanda. There's gonna be a very awkward family conversation again, and I just thought that whole scene was done so well. And then he warps her back, and she drives around, and I'm there like, that was intentional. She is there for that reason. She was there to tell him he's dead. He's been sniffing around a bit more than he should be, and she's there to send him back on track. And that's where I think there's way more to it. And obviously, what also happens, if he's asking too many questions, let's get rid of him. Let's go to the corner of the estate, knowing that the exit is 10 meters away. And this person, if she is deep, again, I'm too deep into my theory now, but if he's going to be a potential issue to take Wanda out of reality, let's just get rid of him. Let's kill him, because once he steps out those doors, he's dead. Not doors, I guess, the force shield thing. And what a moment. Now I'm going to start theory number two. Sorry, I've took the casting from you, but we'll go back to that in a minute. But when he's being pulled apart, piece by piece, the theory I have, again, we've got the dead puppet theory, me and you, that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, and that kind of came right, but we never got to see Vision's corpse on the table in the lab, but he's in a lab nonetheless. And when pieces of his skin are flaking off and going back in, it's not the click skin disappearing. I think now he was outside of reality, he was in reality, and what is he in reality? He is a dead robot made of vibranium that was in a research center in a laboratory. And these villains are so desperate, their vibranium contact. I'm not going to go with the Ultron theory, but the theory that they are weaponizing Vision, I think he was about to turn into, desktop Vision, do we want to call him, where they've probably been taking pieces of his skin away for ages, trying to get in there, because we all know vibranium's like the toughest material. So that was fascinating, seeing what happened to him. And the fact that Wanda had to, obviously, without jumping too far, had to obviously expand it to bring him in. I think the Vision stuff's amazing. And it's also now the third time we've seen the Vision die, which is amazing as well. I don't think we've ever seen the same character die except Tom Cruise that many times in Edge of Tomorrow. So that I know.
I like how selfless he is as well. Like, just Vision, just really quickly. Like, I love how selfless he is. Like, he's like, when he's falling apart, he's saying like, "We must save the people. You must save the people," and he's constantly thinking about them. It's like, man, Vision is just a true hero, isn't he? Like, through and through. He's so great. He is like the Superman character, I guess, or maybe Captain America, sort of like a mix of the two, I guess. But Vision is worthy. He was another one who was worthy to wield the hammer of Thor, wasn't he? So that's part of that. Now, James has gone into a theory here. I don't know anything about this character. So this is like some deep comic book stuff here. I think this is related to the character of Agnes again. I'm 100% on her being Agatha Harkness, and my punt is with the theories that she's in some way being influenced by Mephisto to be the villain alongside generic sword guy. Well, I hope generic sword guy becomes a little less generic, because he has still maintained that that characterization since the beginning of the series. I hope there's more to him than that, because we've got 3 episodes. And here's the thing, with all these questions, we still have loads of questions. And granted, I think, was it episode 4 that answered a whole bunch of them, where we got that episode outside of the Hex
Yeah.
Do you think that this is going to end with a satisfying ending? Do you think it's going to tie all of these threads up? Do you it's going to be conclusive? Right. Okay.
I think WandaVision is going to be conclusive to the WandaVision series. Individual character arcs inside of this show will be complete, but that may be setting them up for character arcs for down the future of the MCU, if that makes sense. So I think WandaVision is going to be sort of wrapped up, not in a neat bow, but maybe the bow will have like a sort of pen mark down the line, because we know that Elizabeth Olsen's going to, at some point, be in the multiverse or be attached to it with Doctor Strange. So there are logistics we do know of. And it's going to be really interesting because generic sword guy is so frustrating to watch. And I'm not going to say it's a criticism of the show, because I think when you have people that generic, it's intentional generic. And obviously, when it's played out in 3 weeks' time, we're going to know. But there's something else going on. And that's why I think he wanted Vision dead, because I think he's been the one leading the experimenting on him. They want what's inside of him. Is it the technology? Is it the mind? Because I love what you were saying, how Vision's selfless. And it makes me go back to Age of Ultron. Granted, it's been a while since I've seen it, but one of the best scenes in the film is at the end when Vision speaks with Ultron before he kills him. And Ultron sort of giving him all that, you're so predictable. And one of my favorite lines of the entire MCU is he goes, "Well, I was born yesterday." But I think Vision's so stoic, and I think it's that combination of Paul Bettany being bloody amazing in every episode he's been in so far. Not many people, I think, could have that good a performance wearing red makeup pretty much every week and having to wear this time a giant sock over his head. He's great, and it's what you said, save the people, not me. And I remember Age of Ultron again, that the programming of Vision was Jarvis, and I think they always said added with the intelligence of Robert Downey, Iron Man, Bruce Banner, and then it was going to be Ultron's final form, but it never was. So he stayed as the sort of the perfect incarnation, as you said, the Superman. And even those shots of him flying up in the air, just looking around, like, he's awesome. Such a cool guy. Yeah. And I think it's like not like a Shakespearean tragedy, but because we all know he's dead, he isn't getting out of this show alive for whatever reason. And we knew this even back in Infinity War, that he only clicks it when he takes your head off. And I think that's what makes it so much nice, is that he's a doomed character from the get-go. And we're learning about how he's going to return to that form. And now he's discovered bits of it. What's he going to take into his conversation with the next week? Is when we get to next week, without jumping too far, is he going to then be discussing how I got out of this thing, this happened, that happened. And it's quite frankly, I'm so down with it. But the whole sort of 10-minute sequence of sort of Vision in detective mode was one of my favorite moments of the entire series so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a couple more points to talk about. I completely forgot one about them, and I do want to get to Life of Brian's as well, because that's a good talking point as well to do with Monica Rambeau's character. But trying to dissect the TV advert, because they're like a segment of each episode that I always really look forward to, is to see what they do with the advert. And it's always kind of like some dark humor or dark commentary on the MCU as a whole. So this one did kind of stump me, though, this time. The others have been kind of blatant with the tagline, but this one did kind of throw me a little bit. So we've got to mention this person's name, haven't we, George? Okay, I'll do it. I've seen the Grace Randolph video, who explained the advert as the boy on the island was one of the twins and he needs to start using his magic or he'll die. Essentially, open your magic, and the boy couldn't open it in the advert. He did kind of use his powers, though, didn't he? He's got like a sixth sense. He's got an awareness. He knew that something was happening. He knew that his dad was in trouble and there was something not quite right and that he was out of the hex. And then he prompted his mom. So,
he's talking about the TV advert.
Yeah, but related to, I thought he was saying, extrapolating that advert to what was going on in the episode, that the boy needed to use his powers. Is that applying to someone in the show, like the kid?
What's becoming clear now, which really clicked with that Lagos one last week, is the adverts are telling the story of Wanda. You started off with Hydra. You started off with more Hydra soap, rubbing it off, getting rid of Hydra. That was her leaving Hydra, becoming an Avenger. Last week, the Lagos towel. Lagos is the Civil War where they burnt the building. And I'm not going to take credit for this. Everyone's saying the Yo Magic one is dark because this is her in Infinity War. Basically, she's got all this magic, and it is magic, but she cannot stop the death of Vision. That's what some people are interpreting it as.
Okay, this was Grace Randolph. This was about the twins, right?
That's
here.
Fine.
I was one of the twins, so that's Grace, not me. But
oh, my bad. Sorry, I only saw the first half of it. Don't take this the wrong way, Carl, but that sums up Grace Randolph. I got blocked by her on Twitter.
There goes that collaboration out the window, just straight away.
I don't worry. She's just fuming that Pedro Pascal didn't get sacked and Gina did. Moving on. Quickly, the Hex is catching on. We also go the changes in Monica Rambeau. The Hex, yes. When I first heard, I was like, Christ Almighty! It's like Brexit. It's like, what a pathetic word. And here we are down the line, and it is the word. And the Hex has caught on. Fair play to it. It's catchy, and it's better than saying the alternate reality, isn't it? I think the Hex, and I think this will be a big event down the line, the Hex. But that being said, I literally forgot where I was. My bad.
There's the Monica Rambeau stuff, so it's like she's changing on a molecular level. She's I don't know if the character has
her blood's changed since her. I think in the comics she's a superhero. I don't know to what degree. If it was Iron Man, no actual powers, and is a superhero, or if she does eventually get powers. But a real outsider theory, which I can't see happening, is they're mutating the blood cells. And what is a mutation, Chris? It would make them a mutant.
But if they make her a mutant, well, she's not one in the comics, that's a problem with me.
Well, the issue would be is that all the mutants would be from Westview, which I don't think could logically work. I like the concept of it, but I think we're going to get mutants. I think she's going to play a big hand in creating the mutants, but there is a sub-story happening with Monica Rambeau's blood.
Here we go. So this could be leading into this. I'm sure she's probably going to be in Captain Marvel too anyway. Monica was introduced as the second Captain Marvel, so they're probably planning long term. And she gained superpowers after being bombarded by extra-dimensional energy. So extra-dimensional, that could be multiverse stuff, produced by an energy disruptor weapon. Obviously, they're changing that and they're playing with it a little bit. She also became leader of the Avengers for the time. Now, I don't know how much of that they're going to extrapolate, but that does sound familiar she's been involved in the Hex for quite a considerable amount of time, and it's already had an effect on her body. Now, the question is, has it had an effect on anyone else, or just specifically her? And if it is just her, why is that the case? She also mentioned something about the fabric, didn't she? Was it like last week the fabric had changed to like Kevlar or something like that?
And it was like bulletproof or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bulletproof fabric. And that's what's going to be fascinating. I think just to mention what we mentioned with the mutant, sorry. I like the Hex idea, but this might be how they introduce the mutants. And an inversion of the Scarlet Witch storyline. Yeah, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. So House of M results in her basically wiping out the mutants. And there's a lot of he said the inversion word, one of our favorite words over the last year. If you watch Tenet, we've kind of had this prediction, and I think this is going to happen. I think the biggest issue, the biggest discussion point for Kevin Feige for the last 4 years has been, right, we're getting the rights to the X-Men. How can I take this pre-established Marvel Cinematic Universe where humans haven't had superheroes until Tony Stark? I can't just suddenly trick Professor X and a mutant school in, be underground. There's no legitimate way it could work without it being awful. Doesn't matter how they try and tell it. There's no legitimate way that X-Men could have been in the MCU the entire time. And this is where I think the multiverse and Scarlet Witch comes into it, that it's all going to be created either via her or via the multiverse, which we're getting the Spider-Man as well, which is actually looking like a blessing for them. I don't think the intention was probably to have ever had Spider-Man 3 being the multiverse film. I still think that's coming off the back of Spider-Verse, and then being like, we're going to do a multiverse, and Spider-Verse worked really well, and everyone wants to see Toby come back, and some people do want Andrew Garfield to come back, but a chance for them guys to get the live-action Spider-Man in when everyone thought that it'd be done on the animated world. I think the multiverse is their long plan. Sorry, another really quick one. Am I moving on if I say dead Quicksilver?
I was just going to say, with how far the Hex is expanding at the end, did it actually stop or did it keep going? And if it keeps going and we get like this big bombastic ending where the whole world's been transformed by Wanda and she can't control it, if that is affecting people, that you could explain how that's gone global, or if it's just in the US or just in that state or whatever. Although I think it is a global thing with mutants, isn't it? You have like Storm, who's from Africa, and you have Nightcrawler, who's German, and it might get completely out of hand by the finale if they do go with that. But I like that theory. I think that'd be really cool. But yes, I agree. Yeah, this next comment right here, I completely agree with James. This would have been an amazing cameo if they'd have done this.
Yeah, bringing in dead Quicksilver. And the fact that if it had been... I think he's coming back. I think he's going to get a cameo. It might be a second, it might be 2 seconds. I've got a feeling he will cameo at some point in the next few weeks, and that isn't the previously on WandaVision because it's now previously in the MCU. The Quicksilver stuff was amazing because he started testing her, didn't he? It wasn't the Vision polite; it was him making digs. Taking the bullets for no reason. The flashback where we've got them as kids, and she's like, I don't remember that at all. And it's like one of them's got like it looks a bit like Nick Fury. The one looks a bit like Black Widow, actually. And then it's kind of like, and then he obviously, I can't remember what he said exactly, which sort of switched her, but she doesn't care. She just goes for him. But we get a shot again of dead Quicksilver. It's like the dead Vision thing. He's got darker eyebrows, darker makeup, and his hair's in the wrong place. He's got the bullet holes in his top. And I think we know it's not the projection of dead Quicksilver, because that could have been Aaron Taylor-Johnson for 1 second. If it had been, that would have been insane. But I think they're holding him off for something else.
I think it would have been more impactful, though, for that shot if they had have got him back and it's like your original incarnation of Quicksilver. I want to talk about another sort of like Easter egg. We're assuming it is. I thought I'd noticed it. I mentioned it to you, and you said that you picked up on the same, and you also mentioned that some other people online have as well. So we've got Evan Peters Quicksilver in here, and there's a moment where I think they mention it twice, and they really linger on the phrase. He says kick-ass, and it's not just like a throwaway line and we move on. It seems like they really linger on it. Now, of course, Evan Peters was in the first Kick-Ass film. I think he was recast in the second one as the character of Todd. And I just checked, so maybe it's a rights issue. I'm not sure. If it is, it's a really cool Easter egg in there. But Kick-Ass, the Dave Lazowski years, which was the comic book, was originally published by Marvel Comics.
Marvel, yeah. It was a subsidiary company.
And then now it's under the company's name, Icon Imprint, and republished under Image Comics. So I don't know if Marvel still have a hand in it or if it's completely out of their hands now. But if that was an Easter egg, that was a really cool Easter egg. So I'm like, how big is this multiverse now? This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them. We've got the X-Men stuff, and now we've got the Kick-Ass stuff. It's mad. Is Nicolas Cage now part of the MCU? We don't know.
It could be. Could you imagine if, for whatever reason, this would be in Doctor Strange, not TV? Do you remember the old Tom Cruise as Iron Man rumors?
Yeah.
There's been so many rumors kicking around that think in Doctor Strange next year there could be just outrageous, wild cameos of anyone and everyone. And I think there was those rumors on the news a couple of weeks back that Chris Evans had signed on to be in the MCU for one film again. I think he could easily have a cameo, not as Captain America, not Chris Evans, because he can't play himself. I've forgotten his name. That's really bad. Steve Rogers. I could see him appearing in the multiverse in like a really quick scene. I could see Tom Cruise doing a cameo as Iron Man. He'd probably ask for a real suit that would fly him around to do it. I just think we're going to get some insane. I think WandaVision is the very much grounded. This is WandaVision. We're establishing this. We're telling the story of Wanda and the X-Men, bringing the multiverse. Spider-Man's going to be the slightly edgy, hey, we're bringing back, the iconic trilogy characters. We're bringing back these characters. This is the potential of the Spider-Verse. And then Doctor Strange, it's called The Multiverse of Madness. It's a Sam Raimi film. Full about me and you spoke about this. We might not get Mysterio, but we're going to get, oh my God, I forgot his name from, have I forgotten the actor's name? From Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell. That's it. We're going to get a Bruce Campbell cameo. It could be him as Mysterio, as the famous Spider-Man for storyboards, but the Doctor Strange film, is going to have the insane cameos, the insane multiverse stuff, whereas I think it's going to be a little bit more grounded in WandaVision. I know we're completely off point, but James says he needs Nick Cage as Galactus.
I'm so down for that. Yes. Giant motion captured Nick Cage face. Mind you, he's doing anything at this point, isn't he? By Christ. Although technically he's Ghost Rider. So can we bring him back as that? Is that going to be a way to the multiverse? The way to get this is the true purpose of the multiverse is to forget Tobey Maguire. It's to get Nick Cage back into the MCU and somehow. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in this episode. There's probably way more theories and stuff in this episode that we've missed. Yeah. I can't think of anything else to talk about unless anyone else has any questions or speculation or theories themselves they want to throw out. This has been awesome today, though. This has been a really good conversation today in the comments.
Yeah, I think because we've hit that sort of end of Act 2, haven't we? Not the multiverse, the hex has expanded. One of my favorite moments was those transition shots when they were getting wiped and they were like clowns and the tents became a circus. And we're going to get all that stuff. They dropped the F-bomb as Darcy was going into it.
Oh, she says fudge. The subtitles say fudge.
Oh, is it fudge?
Yeah, it's fudge, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Smart for them because it cuts after the fur. I think we're going to get some crazy stuff happening. Are they going to be able to remember? Are they going to be locked? Are we going to get WandaVision in some sort of walking over in the next episode, ready to kill them all? What's going to happen to Vision? I think that Hex expansion has left us in a really interesting state, and I think it did stop growing. So I know you mentioned it earlier. I think it did stop. It is humongous, and I really hope, not to do a slight criticism, I really hope it doesn't become we're just going to keep growing this thing, because bigger doesn't always mean better. However, that is not something I saw on the cards coming at all. But we know that the military dudes, everyone calls him Sword Guy. I keep thinking of an actual man with the sword, but obviously it's him the high up. He's obviously alive. Darcy's in the Hex now, and we have Monica, and I always forget his name, the one from Ant-Man 2. I feel really bad because we love him. Didn't get too much to do.
Detective Wu, isn't it?
That's it. I like the fact that we've got those guys left alive. They're going to have to team up clearly with the Psycho Sword guy, but we're going to get some very interesting revelations. And I'm still putting all my money that they were trying to weaponize Vision. We don't know to what capacity. Some people still think they could be Ultron. I see the logic of it, but I just can't physically see that being a thing. However, I'm not going to say no to a James Spader cameo for like 10 seconds if it came to it. So
I'd be fine if he came back. I just don't want him to be sort of like the main big bad, I guess, for it. But I'm just looking at the comments. We've got a lot of love for Kat Dennings at the moment, for Darcy's character.
Changed fully. Yeah, I'll give it this.
Darcy.
Let's talk not off WandaVision. We're obviously doing our big MCU retrospective, not to advertise it for the sake of it. Streaming March the 1st. There you go. Look at that beautiful little thumbnail there. The whole point that's to go back to films and see how perspective and how time has changed it. And we know we've locked it in the Infinity Saga, but you're going to be on Thor with me. I guess we can say that. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't a big fan of Darcy watching Thor, and the whole concept is
same.
How do I feel horribly put 10 years later? Because that makes me feel even older now. 10 years ago, Thor came out. I'm intrigued to go back and see how was Darcy in Thor 1 and 2 again. And yeah, it's really interesting because it wasn't on my I really need to see this character return this, but I'm really enjoying her, and I think they found a good spot for her. And I do think that TV supporting role is working better for her than supporting role in the film, more so because it was in Thor, and at that point in the MCU, I don't think Thor was ready for that kind of comedy stuff. But I've completely 180'd on Darcy. Really quick one from Smokey and the Bandit. Do you guys think the aerospace engineer Monica Cord could be Mr. Fantastic? Ooh.
We've got one here from James as well. Similar lines. One thing I noticed online as well was Rambo's guy she was going to meet is rumored to be Reed Richards. Okay, well, so a little bit of backstory. After I watched this episode today, I went back and watched Vision's death from Infinity War, and I was just going to watch that one scene in isolation, which ended up watching the entire ending of Infinity War with the snap and the material. You had to. You can't just stop it there. It all connects. Absolutely loved it. And then from there, of course, I went to the portal scene in Endgame, and I relived that moment, and it was great. Now, I've always said Endgame felt like the end. It's in the goddamn title, for God's sake. And we thought, you're not going to top that. And I still stand by that. I don't think they'll ever top that moment ever again from Endgame. But I always thought, okay, let's put it to bed now. You've had your fun 10, 11 years. Let's put it to bed. But with this show now and these theories, I didn't even think of that. And I know that Fantastic Four's happening. They've announced that it's happening. Yeah. Now I'm like, we've got potential of future of X-Men. We've got the multiverse. And we've got, hopefully, a Fantastic Four done right. I do have kind of a little bit of love for the original two that came out. The original and Rise of the Silver Surfer. Whatever. They're fine. But a proper comic accurate one. I'm like, let it happen. I'm here for like the next, well, hopefully here for the next 10 years. Let's keep it going. I want to see all these things. I want to see Nick Cage as Galactus. I want to see us go cosmic. I want to see all these things happen. And if that's the case, if that's the way, that's going to be a very, very smart way of it. It seems like an impossible task, right? Because you imagine Kevin Feige just tearing his hair out going, how am I going to introduce the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in, as you mentioned, a world where superheroes already exist and they're not pre-established? If this is the way of doing it and we're going to go there, then bring it on. I'm ready because that's awesome.
If it works, he needs to go into politics because he'll be the only person that can save the world at this rate.
And this is key
really
as well.
thing.
Richard doesn't have to have his powers yet. And yeah, like maybe they go into space to investigate some kind of cosmic thing, which leads to the accident and brings them back. I think it's easier to write them in than the X-Men. I think the X-Men are definitely tough to do. But yeah, if they do that, brilliant.
There was a rumor ages ago that at the end of Far From Home, they're moving out of the Avengers Tower. Someone else had bought it. That someone was nameless. People always thought, could it be the Baxter Building? Because obviously that is set 1 year. This is a big thing, actually, guys. If you haven't clocked this, Spider-Man was set a year after Endgame. This is set way before Spider-Man. If you go in the Spider-Man credits, Nick Fury. If you go to see Nick Fury on the ship, you can actually see on the wall the hex as well. That's been a really big thing. You can see a projection of the hex. It's not really obvious. It's not red, but you know them sort of like space graphics, like the Death Star plans, that kind of hex. So people have been really going in on that, which is.
Oh, we've lost George for a few seconds. He will be back.
That's one.
3, 2, 1. Sorry, you cut out there again. There you go.
It's fine. I'll just say Fantastic Four. I've always had a soft spot more for the first one. I could easily see it as a smart way of bringing them in. I'm not saying multiverse them, but you know, could you imagine if Chris Evans' cameo that he signed on for could actually be reprising the role of
right? They have to.
The thing is, he would do it. You know, he'd do it. But they can bring them in, however, and I trust them with it. And we still don't know, you know, if that person is it going to be the end of Cobra Kai season 3, where it's like I know a guy, and he says like, "Oh, hi, Reed," and we might not see him, or I think everyone wants John Krasinski to play him at this point, don't they? They all want Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Obviously, they're married in real life. It's the perfect acting duo to be the pair. So could it be them? We don't know. Sorry, James. I'm a simple guy. Give me a chance of Doom and I'll take it.
Yes.
They would get Dr. Doom right. And that's the big thing. And also, I think the guy directing Spider-Man 3 is going to be directing the Fantastic Four, which gives more leeway to the theory that the Dr. Fantastic Four are moving into Avengers Tower.
But unfortunately, we can't have Mads Mikkelsen playing Dr. Von Doom, which would have been amazing casting. He's already been no-name villain in Doctor Strange. I can't even remember the guy. I don't remember his backstory. I don't know why he wanted to take over the world. He was just a bad guy for Doctor Strange. Probably the weakest area of that film because it is a film that I enjoy, but the villain side, even though it's Mads, and I love Mads, but you mentioned Chris Evans coming back as Human Torch. Let's not forget as well, Michael B. Jordan was also Human Torch and Killmonger. Killmonger.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the best villains of the MCU. Of course, I always forget that. I always forget about the Phantom Force stick. Really funny joke on Twitter the other day. So you know, you get these accounts like dedicated to great movie lines. There was one called like terrible movie takes, and it was like someone from the Fantastic Four saying this is fantastic, and then it cuts to like Reed Richards like say that again, and I think that was the final shot from the film. Which is cringe-fest. It's interesting. There's so much potential. And this is the thing with WandaVision, and I feel really sad because we got a trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm still really hyped for, but WandaVision to me has been a game changer, and we're on episode 6 out of 9. I did not think 6 weeks ago, well, it wasn't even 6 weeks, I think 4 weeks, that I would be at this level I'm at now. This is, I think, great things that it went from being, oh God, when WandaVision started and we got Marvel, it's happening every week for like 4 months. Oh God, it's happening. Now it's like, give me the next episode now. And they've done it. Again, I'm going to, once again, Kevin Feige was right. I feel that should be a t-shirt print. He is always right.
He is the way. Here we go. Yeah, I'm exactly with Life of Brian on this one. For a show that started so slowly, I cannot believe how much I'm in for it. Definitely. Now, I was mentioning this to James. I was chatting with him and we were saying that we love the show. We love the intrigue of it. But when it's all said and done and you've got the answers to the questions and everything's all done, is it going to have rewatchability? Or once you know where it's going and you've found where it's headed and you know who the big bad is, if there is a big bad, will that lessen the impact of the show? I think it will. I think the biggest part of the enjoyment for me with this series is the theories. All of these theories I had no idea on. I never even thought about the X-Men. I know that with Pietro being there, Quicksilver, it's like, oh, it's bringing in the X-Men. But to this level, and especially the Fantastic Four, I hadn't thought of any of these. So thanks to everyone that's been commenting along tonight. But this has been the biggest part of my enjoyment of this series has been the theories week to week and that wait for the week. I think when it's all said and done, it will lose its impact a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if it does hold up. But yeah, I remember when the trailers came out for it, I thought, oh, WandaVision, that's that weird one that I don't really care about. And then Loki, if that's going to please the fanboys and fangirls. And then Cap and Winter Soldier. Well, sorry, Falcon and Winter Soldier was like, yeah, this is like the next continuation of the MCU that I want to see. And then the new trailer came out, and don't get me wrong, it was a fine trailer. I'm still looking forward to seeing those characters come back, but this has been so good. And I'm like, oh, we're just going back to like a generic kind of spy Falcon espionage show, like maybe. But yeah, I'm just loving everything about this so far. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say. I was going to open it up to a question actually for people in the comments, but I know that we were sort of debating whether to do this maybe for a possible Battle of the Brackets. We haven't confirmed anything yet. We don't have another Battle of the Brackets out there, but to do with the multiverse and which characters we'd like to see come back. And after having this discussion tonight, I definitely think that should be a future bracket we talk about, because there's so many great characters in like the other Marvel films, the X-Men films, the old Fantastic Four films, even Ghost Rider, even throw Nick Cage in there again. Which characters would you like to see come back? Because they could just blow this thing apart, and they could just bring literally anyone in that they want to from previous films. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, that anything can happen now. And now you've mentioned that video, it's something I really want to do, because there's a lot of potential. Even if it's not Battle of the Brackets, certainly a discussion between us, and we've got so much Marvel stuff going on. It's going to be wonderful. Not just WandaVision, but even Loki, even how good WandaVision's been, has made me think, you know what? It's that Thanos being like, perhaps I treated you unfairly. And that's me like not caring about Loki 2 months away. And I think we're going to have to raise a shirt soon that says Kevin Feige is always right. Just something along those lines. He doesn't miss. He doesn't get it wrong. And that's no, but we allow him. I guess that's going to get repaired in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, which is somehow still coming out this year. That everyone always gets. Oh, sorry. Imagine all the Hulks meeting each other. Well, we're getting She-Hulk. We're getting Bruce. I mean, could they really get Ed Norton? If Kevin Feige could get Ed Norton back, that's probably going to be bigger in terms of how did you convince the individual to do it than Tobey Maguire. Because to be fair to Ed Norton, he isn't even about that money, is he? He is about what he wants to do. If the day I see Ed Norton return to the MCU is going to be bigger than Gina Carano returning to The Mandalorian, which we're all glad ain't happening. So, sorry to bring
do you reckon we could get Lou Ferrigno back as well? He's cameoed in all of the Hulk films.
Yeah, he was. I was going to call him the Infinity Hulk then. The Incredible Hulk. I always forget his name. He was the security guard. Smokey, I always wish they introduced Red Hulk. Still possible. We've still got General. Is it General Hurt in the game? I always forget the actor's name mixed up the character. General Ross. General Ross.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's it. What on earth was I on about? But yeah, anything.
His first name is Thunderbolt. Like, come on, like, can you? You are born to be a general or a leader of men with a name like that, or a porn star, either one. But yeah, I mean, we saw them. They didn't go into the Planet Hulk stuff, but you could see with Ragnarok, they definitely, with like Gladiator Hulk, they drew from that. So I'd love to see that. And the thing is, it's Paramount, isn't it? With Hulk, I think it's Paramount. And there's the rights issue there that they can't release a solo Hulk film unless it's by them. And it's a shame because there are so many unanswered questions from that. And I know that Abomination's coming back in. Is that in What If? Marvel's What If, is it? We're getting Abomination come back? Or
oh no, it's going to be in She-Hulk. It is going to be in She-Hulk. So yeah, again, another show. I mean, they announced so many Marvel shows we went in, but in 2 years' time, I'm going to go back to that Disney investors meeting where me and you, they're like, we absolutely can't stand this. This is too much. I'm prepared to be like, yeah, well, Kevin Feige was right. Because we're getting ahead of a lot of Marvel shows. But again, WandaVision, this is credit to WandaVision. This is doing everything right to keep things going, to get to that next level of, I want to see what happens next. And also, I'm not saying it's reinvigorated the interest in the MCU, because I still think there's a consensus it's there. But this is adding that new dimension to the hype that this isn't the exact same Marvel product I've seen for the last 10 years. Some films have differed, some haven't, but very much there's been a sort of consistent trend And I think this is starting to change it. So I am all in for the next few weeks.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's that cookie cutter sort of formula that Marvel fell into. And granted, they did it well. You know, like each film was consistent, but they did hit a point where I felt they became samey. Pulled it back with Infinity War and Endgame. So hopefully, this sort of gives it not a new lease on life, because they're still top dog. It's the highest grossing film of all time, Endgame. So they're still on top form, but this feels different. And I don't know if this is just going to be something that's exclusive to WandaVision, or if this is going to be I'm not going to say darker, because it doesn't necessarily need to go darker, but just taking it in a different direction, or like a different approach, new layers to it, I guess. And if Marvel moves in that direction, then they're going to keep me hooked, definitely. Smokey says, next episode has to introduce the main villain. I agree. I think if it is going to be a big bad, I think we're getting... You mentioned like the second act thing. I definitely think this was sort of the end of the second act, and now we need to be ramping up to that third act. So now's the time to spring the villain. I don't want it to be like a final 10 minutes, final 20 minutes of the final episode. But it depends, because if this is teeing up, say, Mephisto, but Mephisto's not going to come into it till Doctor Strange, it will need to be like an introduction, and then you're going to have your payoff in your big budget film. And to be fair, Mephisto, I think if you want to do Mephisto justice, but visually and everything that goes along with it, you need that big blockbuster budget for it, I think, to do it truly justice. But we'll see. We've had some funny Gina Carano comments going on here as well. I've just been laughing at those.
I am sorry, guys. She actually sent a tweet saying, "This is the beginning. Welcome to the rebellion." Yes, the Ben Shapiro rebellion. Disney are shaking in their boots as everyone unsubscribed and then resubscribed to watch today's videos. I'd love a discussion on that, but we won't give her the airtime. We're just going to keep mocking her. That being said, though, if you do have some Cara Dune Black Series figures, some sweaty Republicans are buying them for like $400 on eBay, so get selling your own and make some money off her. That being said, one thing Marvel always say this, they've never hit that merch game that well. And I know it's not Star Wars. I know they have their own line. They've got Marvel Legends, but I'm too old for the collector aspect, and Marvel doesn't fully have it for me, bar the actual insane stuff. I don't think I want a replica of Vision's head, but I don't know how to end on this, because
I was going to say the Hot Toys figures are pretty cool, I think, as collectibles go, but that's kind of across the board. Hot Toys always do like a bang job with their figures.
You can't buy one Marvel one, can you? Let's be honest. You're going to buy one. It's like, now I need the other Avengers, and then you're going to say, now I need the Portal scene, and next thing you know is you're a museum.
Next thing you know, you're homeless, because Hot Toys are extremely expensive. The last thing, Smokey, I think we've gone through all the comments then. They did say the ending of WandaVision used more CGI than Endgame. You mentioned that a few weeks ago. So we were debating whether we wanted this to end on like a big, heroic, over-the-top, overblown CGI action fest at the end. If it serves the story, fair enough. I'd like to see it sort of withhold a little bit, but still give a satisfying finale. I won't know until I watch it. And if it builds up there gradually and believably, then absolutely. But I think I'm talked out on this episode at the moment. I think we've pretty much combed through absolutely everything we physically can. Maybe there's some more theories out there that we've missed, and, you know, everyone's going into like the Fantastic Four stuff and everything like that. This has been an absolute blast today. So thank you for everyone who's tuned in and watched the whole entire video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is what we want. We want this conversation week to week with you guys, because this has been an absolute blast today doing this. And, you know, we've got another 3 weeks to go. So hopefully you guys can come back next week, exactly the same time, 8 p.m. GMT, every single Friday for WandaVision. Had to make sure I was getting the day right there. We have a lot of videos scheduled, and that's going to be exactly the same for next week as well. So we're live on Tuesdays as well for retro reviews, where we can go back and review some older films. Beverly Hills Cop 2 is going to be the film that we're discussing this Tuesday, also at 8 p.m. GMT. Oh my God, what else do we have? We have so many other videos. So the best way is to just find us on social media, guys. It really is. Oh, hang on. Going across the bottom right here. Yes, the big new series. How can I forget? Cinema Savvy Awards. We announced it yesterday on our 1000th video on the channel. That is starting Thursday the 18th. That's going to be good fun, and that's going to be an ongoing series every single Thursday, which is going to take us up to the actual night of the Oscars as well. So tune in for that. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. And obviously, for everything in between, follow us on our social media. So Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at Cinema_Savvy, and of course now we're on Letterboxd as well. So that's the big new thing. It's just easy to see lists of everything we've reviewed, and we're keeping that updated as we go through as well. We did have that many years ago. It's good to be back on there. And of course, if you'd like to pick up some of our merch as well. We have the TeePublic link in the description down below. We've got some t-shirt designs on there, and who knows, we've pitched the idea of maybe a new Kevin Feige was right shirt. So maybe look for that. Maybe we'll get that done if we can. But yeah, this has been awesome. So once again, thank you to everyone tuning in. We'll be back with more content very, very soon. So until then, stay safe and take care, everyone.